And now we're going to look at how to play some lead guitar ideas in a simple rock style, and we're going to look at how to come up with melodies and how to come up with a guitar solo. But for the melodies, we're going to use what we call chord tones. So we've got a chord progression going on here of D, A, G, and A. And the idea is this: we choose one string, in this case we're going to use string 2, and think what note happens in that chord on string 2. So in the D chord, it's the 3rd fret, in the A chord, it's the 2nd fret, in the G chord, it's the open string, and back on the A chord, it's the 2nd fret again. So we're coming up with a simple melody which goes D, C sharp, B, C sharp. Now to give it a rock feel, all we need to do is play some pretty repetitive, intense rhythms on that, so keep it not too sparse, keep the notes moving. Yeah? That intensity is what we need to make it to give it the rock sort of feel, and then it's a really, really simple way to come up with a melody. Pro tip is to look at the chord images, which you'll see, well, knocking around here somewhere on this side. This side I think it is, where we're going to be looking for those chord tones, or in your lead sheet that you're given there in the book in the exam. Look at the diagrams on those, pick the string, and then just follow across which note is happening in each string. And let's have a listen to how it sounds. Come up with a really, really basic melody, just using one note in each bar based on the chord shape. Here's how it sounds. Now this is okay, it's going to work, but it's very, very basic. It's appropriate, it's stylistic, but it's too basic to get loads of marks or to win a Grammy, if that's what you're aiming for with this first song. Aim high, why not? But it's going to sound better if we add a few passing notes, and this is where you need to know your scale. So being as we're in the key of D major here, and let's go to string 1 now, we're going to look at the top string. Our D major notes in on this top string are E, F sharp, G, and A. Yep, so I'm still just restricting myself to just the top string. I'm not thinking about too many things at once here. These are all my notes I can choose from, but of course I want to focus on a chord tone in each bar. So for the first bar, I'm going to start off with the 2nd fret, the F sharp. For the second bar, when the A is happening, I'm going to focus on the open E string. And when the G chord is happening, I'm focusing on the G note, 3rd fret on the top string. Then it goes back to an A chord. I'm going to focus again on that top open E, but this time I'm going to add one of my scale notes as a passing note, just to move from one note to the other. Yeah, these will normally happen at the end of the bar, these passing notes. Not always, but normally at the end of the bar. In this example, that's what's happening. Let's have a listen and see how it works. Again, a really super simple idea. We're not even venturing beyond one string, but listen to bands like the Arctic Monkeys and 505 will come up with some really simple melodies based on the chord tones, and the U2, The Edge is good at doing this sort of thing. There's these quite long, drawn-out melodies which, based on the chord tones, U2 songs tend to have really simple chord structures, maybe one chord per bar, and yeah, he's tying together those chord tones with a few passing notes, and they're really, really effective melodies. It doesn't really make a guitar solo, it makes a nice melody part. But if we are going to be playing a guitar solo, what we're going to do is something a little bit different. We've got to come up with something with a bit, again, more intensity, and classically a rock lick is going to have lots of repeated notes in it. Now we're going to use the pentatonic scale to begin with to play a solo here, because there's fewer notes in it, less notes to think of. People often get stuck when it comes to playing solos, as they think, oh god, I've got to use the whole scale, I've got to use the whole major scale. You don't. Pick a little zone. Yeah, pick a couple of strings at a time. So in the D pentatonic, the notes which are going to happen in the on the top few strings are going to be B and D, E and F sharp, at least those are the ones we're going to use for now. And then just to play some pretty repetitive licks using those. So on the top two strings, I'm going to, on the top string even, the top two notes, stick with one string at a time even. A simple, really simple rock lick, and I just use two notes and lots of repetition. I'll go down to that second string. I can get some pretty effective solo ideas just by focusing on a little area at a time and using repetitive notes to give it the intensity it needs. Let's have a listen. Here's how it sounds. A pentatonic solo over this D major progression. big advantage of that is you don't have to be able to move your left hand between the notes up and down the scale too quickly, but you can still get something with a bit of rock intensity. But it's still very, very simple. If you want to score more marks or get a more interesting solo, let's add in some notes from the full major scale. Now, when we get to the full major scale, on the top 2 strings at least, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, and A. There's a few more notes to choose from in there. Yeah, still choose maybe a couple of notes at a time and then add in the third one sparingly, because when we're playing the full major and minor scales, these new notes we've added in, we call them color tones. They've got a lot more emotion, they've got a lot more sort of depth to them, so they're a little bit more risky. I mean, sometimes the risk is what you want. There's more to them, more substance, but they can be a little bit more unsettled. The way we use is tension. We hit that note, we might hear tension in it. So if there's a D chord going on, and I play a lick which goes that note behind the D chord, oh, there's a lot of tension in that. It's not wrong, it's in the scale, but it wants to resolve. That C sharp I hear wants to resolve up to the D, so my lick might go and will resolve up to a D note. So the pro tip here is if you do hit one of these notes, you think, oh, that sounds a little bit risky. I know it's in the scale, but it's not sitting too comfortably. Just resolve. Resolve by going up to the next note of the scale or down to the previous note in the scale, and it's gonna sound more comfortable than the one you were on. Yeah, and it's gonna sound like you meant it. It's gonna sound like you know what you're doing. So know your scale, add in those passing notes, still stay within 1 or 2 strings at most at a time, give yourself little zones to work within, play repeated patterns, but add in some of these passing tones, and here's how it sounds. And there are loads of great examples of simple rock solos that really don't use too many ideas. Listen to I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones. That's a 1-note solo. See how much intensity you can get using just 1 note. And if you use just 2 or maybe 4 at a time, think, you know, the sky's the limit. Think what you can achieve. And then Queens of the Stone Age, Leg of Lamb's got a really cool solo. I think it's on the Rated R album. Using very, very few notes. Josh Homme uses very few notes in general and just a lot of intensity. And when you do hit those notes that, you know, that have a bit of tension, then you can resolve up or down. But it all sounds like a good way to play a simple rock solo without really having to, you know, tear up and down a scale with all that intensity we're used to hearing. But there it is. That's how to play some simple rock ideas, lead guitar. Enjoy.